This is Keith, welcoming you to the 1956th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline the 5th of June 2014. The readers this week are Janet, Sally, Colin and Keith, with Robin on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, under their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Ferdinand Bouillon and Harry Breur, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include call for more police on streets after stabbing, and street spitters made to cough up. Quite a few special news items this week. First, our annual general meeting. This provides a chance for our volunteers and listeners to meet. It will take place on Monday the 16th of June at the Park Avenue Disability Centre, 65C Park Avenue, Bush Hill Park, and begins at 7:30pm prompt. Please do come along if you can. Travel costs can be reimbursed. The Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group invite you to a patient and public engagement event on the 10th of June 2013 at 40 Hall Banqueting Suite, 40 Hall, Enfield, Middlesex, EN2 9HA. The event will be preceded by a light lunch from 1:15pm, with the event running from 2 until 5pm. To confirm your place and to receive more details, email laura.andrews@enfieldccg.nhs.uk. I'll give you that again. That's Laura, spelled Laura, .andrews@enfieldccg.nhs.uk. or call Laura on 0203 688 2840. That's Laura on 0203 688 2840. Please let her know if you have any accessibility requirements for the day. Enfield Carers Family Fun Day. Join Enfield Carers to celebrate National Carers Week by coming along to their Family Fun Day outside Enfield Town Library on Saturday the 14th of June from 11am to 4pm. Now here's some changes to the RNIB Resource Centre opening. The RNIB Resource Centre in Judd Street, London has changed their opening hours and now close early on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock. But they will also now be open on the first Saturday of every month from 9:30am to 12:30pm. The new opening hours are as follows. On Mondays from 9:30 to 5 o'clock, on Tuesday the same 9:30 to 5 o'clock, on Wednesday 9:30 to 3 o'clock, on Thursday 9:30 to 5 o'clock, and on Friday from 9:30 to 5 o'clock. We will also be open on the first Saturday of each month from 9:30 to 12:30pm. The Edmonton 100 Historical Society will be hosting a talk at 7:45pm on Friday the 13th of June at Jubilee Hall, 2 Parsonage Lane, Enfield, EN2 0AJ. Ian Jones will present Terror from the Skies, Enfield and the Air War, 1914 to 1918. For more information, please telephone the Society on 020 8379 2839. I'll give you that number again. It's 020 8379 2839. The Enfield Macular Disease Support Group meets on the second Wednesday of every month from 10am to 12 noon at the Trinity Church Hall, Gentleman's Row, Enfield, EN2 6AN. The meetings are open to anyone affected by central vision loss, and carers are welcome as well. For further details, please contact Alan Newson on 020 8886 5659. That's Alan Newson on 020 886 5659. And finally, the Home Library Service. This is part of Enfield Libraries and provides a delivery service to people living in the borough who are unable to visit a branch library due to age, mobility, disability, or their caring responsibilities. We visit each of our members every 4 weeks. The service is free and we will tailor it to your taste. For visually impaired people, we can provide books in large print or recorded books on CD or cassette. We can also bring music on CD or films on DVD for people with some vision. Members are free to reserve particular items. If you would like to join the Home Library Service or know someone who would, please call 01992 716 010 and we will arrange for the Community Access Librarian to visit you. That number again, 01992 716 010. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and she will be pleased to help you. That's Diane de Jersey and the phone number is 020 8805 6578. Now Janet will read the first item of local news.
Scared neighbours in Edmonton fear the area is in decline following the murder of a 20-year-old woman. The young woman was stabbed by the junction of 4th Street and Grove Street in Edmonton. A 38-year-old woman has been arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in custody at a North London police station. Kelly Balacero of nearby Claremont Street said she was very concerned for her safety. She said, "Hearing this terrible news makes me very concerned. This is not something you want to see, and we are hearing this more and more." In March 2014, 154 violent or sexual offences were committed in Edmonton area, according to Police UK. 50 less than were recorded in March 2013. However, Jane Pagham, 84, also of Claremont Street, who has lived in Edmonton all her life, believes more police are needed on the streets. She said, "We need to see more enforcement on the street. Crime is more likely to happen in the early hours of the morning, and it has happened again. I hope this doesn't become a trend." Edmonton MP Andy Love says he will seek a greater police presence on the streets to ensure residents feel safe. He said, "I've been in close contact with the borough's commanding officer regarding the fatal stabbing that took place. My understanding is that it was an isolated incident, but I will be meeting with the local police in the coming week to discuss how we can ensure there is a greater police presence on our streets to guarantee that local residents feel safe." Police were called to the scene and London Ambulance Service paramedics took the victim, who was in a critical condition, to an East London hospital where she died a short while later. The Metropolitan Police said it awaited next of kin and formal identification, and a post-mortem examination was arranged in due course.
Just 6 months after spitting was outlawed in the borough, a trio of offenders have felt the full force of the law. 3 prosecutions last month are the first time in more than 20 years that any local authority in the United Kingdom has been able to convict people for spitting. 2 men from Edmonton admitted their guilt at Tottenham Magistrates Court on May the 22nd after being spotted spitting in the street by Enfield Council enforcement officers. The 2 men were ordered to pay a fine of £50, a £20 victim surcharge and £20 costs each. A third man was found guilty after the case against him was proved in his absence. He has been ordered to pay a £160 fine, £100 in costs and a £20 victim surcharge. The champion of the new law, life president of the Over 50s Forum, Monty Meth, told the Advertiser that the prosecutions were a vindication of what he and the members of the Forum had fought for. Mr. Meth said, "The fact that the first prosecutions for antisocial spitting has been successful proves that our decision to launch a petition was the right decision, and anything that helps to make our borough clean, tidy and wonderful to live and work in is to be welcomed." Enfield Council's Labour Group spokesman for Environment, Chris Bond, who campaigned to get the filthy habit banned, welcomed the prosecutions. "This news demonstrates our commitment to stamping out spitting once and for all," he said. "The message is simple. If you spit in Enfield, we'll prosecute you. It is a truly disgusting habit and one that we absolutely will not tolerate in this borough.
Conservative MPs have welcomed new figures showing that 87 households in the borough have bought a home through the government's Help to Buy scheme. The Mortgage Guarantee Programme, launched in October last year, is aimed at helping people struggling to afford a large deposit get a foot on the housing ladder. Under Help to Buy, households must raise a 5% deposit, which will be backed by a government guarantee of 20%, allowing people to access 75% mortgages without requiring large amounts of cash. Government figures revealed that 87 households in Enfield have bought a property using the scheme, compared to 56 in neighbouring Barnet and not a single one in Haringey. Havering topped the London list with 151 purchases. Enfield North MP Nick Dubois said lots of people in Enfield who are renting their homes would love to be able to buy, but have, until now, been prevented from doing so by the huge deposits required by the banks. His counterpart for Enfield Southgate, David Burrows, added, Help to Buy is giving builders the confidence to build, with the equity loan part of the scheme directly supporting demand for new build homes. Critics have said the scheme could create a new housing bubble and have questioned whether taxpayers' money should be spent subsidising mortgages. Ahmet Oykner, Enfield Council's Labour housing spokesman, said that the government should instead focus on drastically increasing the supply of new homes. He told the Advertiser, this may help a few people, but it's not the way out. It's not just about buying. There are too few new builds coming forward and prices are going up. We can't fix the housing crisis within the existing market. Building has slowed down and we need to revive the sector, and to do that, the government should help local authorities and housing associations to build more affordable homes for those who need it. Across England, 27,000 people have been able to buy a home through Help to Buy, with 85% of those first-time buyers.
Sweeping changes to the way in which probation services are run have come into force as part of government reforms which will see half the service privatised later this year. The 35 probation trusts in England and Wales were split between 21 community rehabilitation companies, which are to be sold off to private bidders later this year, and the National Probation Service. The new London Community Rehabilitation Company will manage low and medium risk offenders, the group most likely to reoffend, and will have a particular focus on gangs. Meanwhile, the National Probation Service will supervise high-risk offenders. The government has said that the part privatisation is necessary for the service to be able to afford the rehabilitation of every offender released from custody, including those sentenced to less than 12 months, a group which previously went unsupervised. But a spokeswoman for the National Association of Probation Officers Union, which has vehemently opposed the breakup of the service, said, "We used to work as a cohesive team, and now we have been split into two. We're anticipating increased workloads because of having to communicate between the two bodies. I think people will find that the service will be a lot less flexible, and I imagine that it will be much more difficult to make ourselves available for our partners, offenders and their families." Jeremy Wright, the government's Justice Minister, said that the move would reduce reoffending. Through our reforms, we are finally addressing the glaring gap that sees 50,000 offenders released onto the streets each year, unsupervised and free to go back to their criminal ways, he added. We have always been clear that these reforms will be rolled out in a sensible way that ensures public safety at every stage. The National Association of Probation Officers spokeswoman added, "The real test will be when we are sold off and the service will be taken over by companies who will run it for profit. there is a general fear that our jobs are at risk, and other services we currently provide, such as drug treatment, job search programs and the forensic mental health practitioner service, I fear they will go.
The netball team, representing one of the borough's smallest schools, has stunned parents and teachers by winning the Northern Division of the Enfield Shield. The team from St John's Church of England School in Theobald's Park Road, Cruise Hill, romped to a resounding 6-2 victory in a thrilling final against Worcester's Primary School at Enfield County School in Holly Walk. The team, made up of girls from years 5 and 6, beat their rivals from the school in Goat Lane, 40 Hill, in a match that saw them go 4-0 up at half-time. Elena Dowler, 11, a Year 6 pupil, who scored 4 goals in the game, told the Advertiser, "The match went really well. We were so happy that we won. Everybody in the team trained so hard and it paid off in the end." The girls' victory came as a genuine shock to their parents and teachers at the primary, which has only 97 pupils, as the competition includes schools much larger than theirs. In previous years, we've always done quite badly because we're such a small school, but we've really given PE a push over the last few years, said Joe Law, Deputy Head Teacher and PE Coordinator. The parents were very happy and the girls were just ecstatic. One of the teachers usually takes the pupils a running round hilly fields twice a week, and this has made a difference. It's paid off on the netball field, but it's just really good for the children to let off some steam after a morning working in the classroom. Head teacher Susan Notley added, "We really take PE seriously, and last year we were awarded a quality mark with distinction from the Association for Physical Education."
A hospital has launched a public consultation in a bid to become a foundation trust. North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, has given the public a chance to give their opinion on the hospital before submitting its application. The hospital has recently undergone a £200 million upgrade, including the new maternity unit and accident and emergency ward. Now, the hospital hopes that becoming a foundation trust will give it more financial freedom and help it to become the healthcare provider of choice for North London. Chief Executive Julie Lowe said, "We are proud of the journey we have been on with our staff, our patients and our local community. Becoming a foundation trust is our next great opportunity and a really important step for all of us." Ms Lowe also believes becoming a foundation will make the hospital more accessible to patients and communities, strengthen relationships with staff and provide greater freedom to innovate and develop services. 4 public meetings have been organised to take place across Enfield and Edmonton. These include the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield, on Thursday, June the 12th, between 7 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Great Towers Community Centre in Plevna Road, Edmonton, on Monday, June the 16th, between 2:30. Haringey Civic Centre in High Road, Wood Green, on Thursday, July the 3rd, from 2:30 till 4 p.m. and the College of Haringey, Enfield and North East London in High Road, Enfield, on Thursday, July the 17th, from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
A dramatic local derby ended in delight for Southgate as they beat Winchmore Hill by 7 runs in a remarkably low-scoring contest in Division 2 of the Middlesex County Cricket League. Host Southgate appeared to have little hope of victory when they were dismissed for 81, batting first, but a superb performance with the ball saw them bowl Hill out for just 74 to snatch an unlikely triumph. Jamie Junings, 23, proved to be the mainstay of Southgate's innings as they struggled in the face of some fine bowling, not helping their cause with 2 run-outs. Hill appeared to be cruising to victory when they reached 39 for 1 in reply, but a sudden collapse saw them lose 6 wickets for the addition of 10 runs, and they never really recovered as they fell short of their modest target. David Wolfenden and Michael Stevens did the damage before Faisal Mir mopped up the tail. "I thought it was one of our better displays in my time at Southgate," said skipper Mir. "We were staring down the barrel after being bowled out for that score, but every single one of the boys stood up and was counted." Meanwhile, Enfield climbed up to second place in the table by easing to a 63-run win at Eastcote. Batting first, Enfield amassed 217 for 6, and the hosts could only make 154 in reply.
It was 4 a.m. on June the 9th, and Private Mervyn Kirsch was awoken as his military ship neared the French coastline after a 14-hour crossing from Britain's shores. Thousands of Allied troops had carried out wave after wave of bloody assault on the Normandy beaches during the 2 days previous, in what was one of the most important military operations carried out in Britain's history. 3 days after D-Day, 19-year-old Private Kirsch was to be among the next barrage of troops unleashed upon the German-occupied territories, and he and his comrades quietly prayed as their vessel cut through choppy seas towards the sands as dark clouds hovered above. Mr. Kirsch recalled his experience of the terrifying beach landings. The 89-year-old said, "We had been told to get some rest on the crossing over, as we didn't know when we would go to sleep next. When we were woken at 4 a.m, we could see the French coastline. Then the trepidation set in. We all prayed or sat quietly until we arrived. It was chaotic. There was a lot of shouting from the beachmasters telling us to keep moving, and gunfire and shells were whistling over our heads from our ships as they covered our landing. There were vehicles littered around that had been destroyed, and there were lots of bodies. As our soldiers got out of the ships, they were loading the bodies on them to send back to England. I was frightened. I think we all were. But we just had to suppress that and get on with it. You couldn't do anything about it." Private Kirsch made it up the beach with his unit, but they were still unsure of what would greet them on the other side, where thousands of Nazi troops had been stationed just days earlier. Fortunately, he and his comrades were welcomed by cheering crowds of French women who threw flowers and waved flags as they made their way onto the mainland. Mr. Kirsch said, "We charged up that beach as fast as we could, and when we got to the other side of the cliffs, I just thought, thank God I've made it this far." The then Private Kirsch would later march with his Royal Army Ordnance Corps through Belgium and Holland before crossing the Rhine into Germany, largely helping to organise the deployment of military vehicles during the conflict. The war hero from Ashurst Road in Cockfosters travelled to France with the Normandy Veterans Association, or NVA, to revisit the key battlegrounds of the Allied invasion. However, the NVA is set to fold later this year due to dwindling numbers, meaning this could be the last trip back to the beaches for Mr. Kirsch, who now gives D-Day talks to schoolchildren. He said, "I don't think we'll ever see a conflict like that again. It's guerrilla warfare nowadays, not army to army. It was the greatest operation in size and concept ever undertaken. There were 100,000 men sent to Normandy on the first day alone, and more than 6,000 vessels that took them over. Many were shot dead before they even made it onto the beach. But what won it for us was the fact that there was wave after wave of us. We pushed the Germans back, and then the second wave would arrive. It's hugely important, it's remembered, and I'm glad the anniversary is being marked. If the Germans had won, they would have come to the coast of this country. I'm sure of it. D-Day shaped the future of the world. It saved it." An exhibition commemorating Enfield's involvement in the First World War will hold activities for children throughout the summer. Launched in March, the exhibition features artefacts, graphics and interactive exhibits about the conflict, which started 100 years ago. Held at the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield, the exhibition will display toys from the war throughout August and look at transport used during the war. To book spaces, call 020 8807 6680. That's 020 8807 6680.
An MP MP, who has railed against the plight of his travelling constituents, regularly left stranded on platforms at the mercy of delayed and cancelled trains, has welcomed the news that control of one of the main lines through the borough is set to change hands. First Capital Connect will no longer be operating the lines that run from Moorgate and King's Cross to New Southgate and Bowes Park, Enfield Chase and Cruise Hill up to Hertfordshire after the government announced that a new train company was taking over. After a winter during which passengers travelled to and from London regularly took to microblogging site Twitter to bemoan the service, the Department for Transport has taken the franchise away from First Capital Connect. Newcomers, Govia, will take on a 7-year contract from September 14 and has pledged to provide 150 new carriages to replace the 40-year-old trains which are currently running on the routes between central London and North London and Hertfordshire. MP for Enfield Nick Dubois has been lobbying the government in recent months over the standard of service his constituents receive from First Capital Connect during the winter. He said, "I'm pleased that the terms of the franchise have clearly begun to reflect many of the priorities for passengers. And the job now is to make sure that these are delivered on, that passengers see the promises turned into reality." Asked if the new franchise award was a sign of passenger power, Mr. Dubois said, "I certainly do think that, and it is important when we are issuing longer franchises because people will invest if it is for a longer period of time. It's important that the public are allowed to hold them to account if they don't meet the requirements." David Brown, Group Chief Executive of the Go Ahead Group, which runs Govia, said the award of the franchise was down to its bid, which, he said, put the focus on improving passenger experiences. Our bid includes 2 new train fleets for Gatwick Express and Moorgate services, in addition to overseeing the introduction of the Thameslink trains already ordered. As well as delivering improvements at stations, he said, "I'm looking forward to working with existing colleagues and welcoming new staff and together delivering this transformation franchise." In response to losing the contract, First Capital Connect Managing Director David Stratham said, "We are of course disappointed that First Group has not been selected as the operator for the franchise. We will work with Govia in order to secure the smooth transition of operations. Everyone at FCC is committed to continue operating to the highest standards until the new franchise begins. We look forward to delivering continued improvements in service reliability, customer information and customer service until September."
We have now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.